like a battery. I'm staying charged on my feet, I'm like a factory. Dropping lines like an assembly. I'm staying.
How you doing, guys? Welcome to ZukaTube, and today we're going to be reviewing Yuyu Hakusho, but on Netflix, another live-action adaptation. Now, this just came out in its entirety, this series, on Netflix December 14th, right? And it's pretty interesting that Netflix keeps diving into these live-action adaptations, considering they fell so short before with like Cowboy Bebop and Death Note and stuff like that. And then they really just went and totally blew everybody's mind with things like One Piece, right? So you see this, and the Rurouni Kenshin one was, from what I hear, pretty good. It looked pretty good as well. So you see this and you're like, all right, you got me, I'm in, right? And now Yu Yu Hakusho, like, this is a cartoon that came out in early 90s. A lot of people watched it, and I still got the intro to it right on my phone at all times. When that comes on the shuffle, it's just so catchy and goofy. I don't know what they're saying, but I just always had a good time with it when I was a kid. I got a couple ones like Inuyasha as well. I got, just a bunch of random ones, Cowboy Bebop, things that I enjoyed watching when I was a kid, and the theme songs were so catchy. Okay, so I'm going to go through, read the summary, talk a little bit about this film, give you some pros and cons, my review, and then we'll do some spoilers at the end, right? Now, this is what it says for the description, right? Yusuke Urameshi, who died saving a little boy, is sent back to Earth and becomes a detective of the spirit world to fight all the demons found on Earth. And yeah, so that's the basic explanation, right? He's just this kind of mischievous guy. He thinks nobody cares about him. He's whatever about everything, but he's still got a good heart, and he saves this kid. He ends up dying in the process, and he gets an offer and gets chosen to be a spirit detective if he decides to go back and live again. And he does, and he decides he gets these powers, and he gets to start learning, but he gets thrown into it kind of in an urgent crisis kind of manner. So he doesn't get the proper training, but he's in there and kind of being guided by these godlike people. And he has to then fight demons as well as just live his normal life because he's been brought back. But he's got some powers and stuff like that. He's quite a bit stronger than an average human, and he's got some abilities that he'll learn along the way, right? And one thing that if you've ever watched this, like, there's some characters that are very distinct. The only thing I got to say that this doesn't have, it's not really like One Piece where they do a really good job on like making as many characters as possible look as close as possible. This one, they're not really doing that as much. You could tell like the cast is pretty much all Asian, and I get it. It's a Japanese cartoon, but at the same time, like, One Piece knew better as well. When they draw anime characters, there's so many different cultures that you can see that they're clearly playing off of, so you want to find people that look just like it, right? So certain ones, especially like Kuwabara's character, you want him to have that pompadour and the red hair and everything, and you imagine him being this like big goofy white dude, but they don't do that. They change it up quite a bit, and that's a little agitating in some areas. But either way, right, it's him and his gang of friends, and they're kind of getting thrown into the mix as he becomes this spirit detective. And his, kind of rival type goofy kid becomes like his kind of partner in crime. Well, not crime, partner in justice, Kuwabara. And they both learn about being spirit detectives and getting these powers and stuff like that, right? Now, the action is really cool, over the top. Everything's shot really well. The acting is great. And I keep mentioning Kuwabara because his character really steals the show. A con I'm going to give you right away is that, Yusuke's character just doesn't feel like him. He's real just kind of like mellow and blah about everything, and he's not the over-exaggerated, fun, very like wide emotional spectrum of a character that he is in the anime, right? So that's a little jarring right away, but everything is shot really well. One thing that you'll notice in these adaptations is obviously they skip over a lot of stuff and try to condense a lot of stuff. This one, it's way more over the top. So I had a little bit of like an issue with some of that stuff, right? Like the introduction to Hiei is weird. Some of the earlier stuff, like the handling of like Genkai and the training, of Yusuke and everything, like That's all really weird the way they condense it. Like that all happens, that whole entire story arc with that character and the training and all that stuff. It's a 1 episode deal. So there's a lot of things that you're like, wait, how are they going to do that? And they do have some issues there. And that's where the cons come into this, right? Like they kind of do a bunch of stuff like that kind of throws it off for people that are big fans, and then also leaves out a lot of really important, great like character development and story stuff that is great for people who haven't seen it, and also just great for the story itself. Like there's some things that, because they condense it so much, there's no weight behind it when they try to use it as a crutch for something in a conflict later on in the 5 episodes, right? So that's just, I don't know, that's a little bothersome right off the bat, right? But it's very enjoyable. So it's kind of like this weird teetering, double-edged sword kind of deal, right? Some of the characters are really enjoyable. Some of the villains are really interesting. Some of the villains that become allies and stuff like that in the crew are kind of borderline like cosplay looking compared to how like, I don't know, like normally clothed everybody else looks, right? So they didn't do a great job of either going full costumey with everybody or like trying to make them look as like rational as it would for that kind of outfit, but like in real life, right? The one character looks like he's wearing the most obnoxious, wig the whole time, and it's just like, what is, it just makes me nuts. But either way, right, before I get into the spoilers and talk about a couple things that might be important to people that they don't want to hear about, I'm going to give you my review. Overall, I would give this just like, I would give this a 6.5 out of 10. It was short. There was a couple things that were kind of confusing because the way they condensed everything, it clashed a bit with some of the story stuff and how it happened. It didn't make you feel for certain events as much. The main character isn't like he should be as far as emotionally, so that's a little tough. But overall, like the action is great, the filming is great, and the acting is pretty good for everybody else. And there's some stuff that's really enjoyable in this series. I'd love to see if they take some of the criticism of people, for this, and they really change things up and kind of hone in on the important aspects that One Piece took from the anime and put it into live action with the second season. I would love to see that. But overall, I would give this a 6.5 out of 10. Let's get into some spoilers. Spoilers. Okay, so the issues that I had that I want to talk about that I felt like might have been a kind of spoilery, right, is that like the blending of the Dark Tournament at the end with the rescue of Yukina, like that, it's a mess. It's just like a weird mess the way they do that. And then I have another note that okay, so Toguro at the end, he pushes the Genkai death, but like you get 1 episode of that, and like that person, the bond with those characters, in the training just was nothing. And all the different things and experiences they have during that trip aren't there. So at that point when that happens, I'm just like, no, that really takes so much weight out of what's happening, aside from the fact that the Dark Tournament's just nothing. It's just like 3 random fights and then it's done. And this is in 5 episodes, so to condense it that much is just, that's where it really falls short. And this could have been so much better if they would have took some of the notes from the One Piece one and went a little bit deeper dives on the characters and some of the events prior to that and fleshed that out a little bit better. It could have been really good. I would have really enjoyed it because the fights are great. The effects are, good enough for Netflix, obviously. And some of the characters are just really enjoyable. So that's the problem I had with it. Again, 6.5 out of 10. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Zukatsu out.
Real like the radio and never play it, but that's cool. The enemy's supposed to hate it.